Tycoon defeated in court by Ek, but the maid finds evidence that turns the tides. Michael Peterson slumped into the leather chair in his office, hands trembling as he held the court notice he'd just received. 15 years of marriage, a business built with blood and sweat, and now everything was in the hands of his ex-wife Jennifer, including custody of their 17-year-old daughter, Emily. Dorothy watched silently from the office doorway. She knew that house better than anyone, every corner, every secret. For 15 years she'd worked for the Peterson family and had never seen her boss in such a state. "Mr. Michael, would you like me to make some tea?" she asked, stepping closer slowly. Michael raised his bloodshot eyes. His unshaven beard and wrinkled suit showed just how shaken he was. "Dorothy, she took everything. The house, the business, even Emily. How could she do this to me?" The maid moved closer, noticing how he trembled as he held the papers. Over the years she'd witnessed the arguments, the constant fights between the couple. But something had always bothered her about Jennifer's sudden departure. "Sir, you need to eat. You haven't had anything since yesterday." "I'm not hungry, Dorothy. I can't even think about food right now." Michael stood from the chair and walked to the window overlooking the garden. The mansion in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, had been the family's dream. Now it had become his nightmare. How did she prove I was a neglectful husband, that I didn't take care of my family? I worked to give them the best. Dorothy cleared her throat softly. In 15 years of service, she'd learned to read people, especially that family. "Mr. Michael, if I may say, Mrs. Jennifer was always very clever, but also very careful about certain things." "What do you mean by that?" "Well, during the marriage, she never let me clean the library. Always said she'd take care of that room herself. I found it strange. She never liked reading." Michael stopped pacing. He'd never thought about that. Jennifer had always been protective of that space. "And there's something else, sir. She always picked up her own mail from the post office, never let anyone else touch it." The sound of cars pulling into the mansion's driveway interrupted them. Through the window, Michael saw Jennifer's black Lexus park in front of the house. But she wasn't alone. A man stepped out of the passenger seat. "I don't believe it," Michael whispered, recognizing the figure immediately. It was Brian Wilson, his best friend since college, his best man, and his partner in some smaller ventures. The man who had always been welcomed like a brother in that house was now holding hands with his ex-wife. "Dorothy, could you go to the kitchen, please? I don't want you to be embarrassed any further." "Sir, if you'll allow me, I'll stay. You might need a witness for whatever she's about to do." The doorbell rang, but before anyone could answer, Jennifer opened the door with her own key. Her high heels clicked against the marble floor of the foyer. "Michael, I came to get the rest of my things," she said, walking into the living room as if she still owned the place. Jennifer looked different. Her hair was shorter, dyed platinum blonde, and she wore expensive clothes Michael didn't recognize. Brian followed a few steps behind, avoiding his former friend's gaze. "Brian, how could you do this to me?" Michael's voice came out weak, almost a whisper. The man finally looked up but couldn't hold eye contact. "Michael, things just happen. Jennifer reached out after you two separated. I didn't plan this." "Liar!" Michael exploded. "You've been together for a long time, haven't you? That's why she suddenly filed for divorce." Jennifer laughed, a cold sound that echoed through the room. "Darling, you've always been so naive. Did you really think I'd stay in that dead marriage forever? You only cared about work, never paid me any attention. I worked to support our family, to give you both a good life. And now I'm the one who'll have the good life," she said with a cruel smile. "The house, the business, the alimony, and most importantly, my daughter far away from a father who only knows how to work." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now back to the story. Dorothy watched everything from the doorway, pretending to adjust the decorations on a nearby shelf. Something about Jennifer's behavior deeply unsettled her. The woman seemed too triumphant, as if she had planned every detail of this situation. "Is Emily okay?" Michael asked, his voice choked. "My daughter is just fine. Far from a father who never had time for her, Jennifer replied coldly. She's our daughter, and you know I've always loved Emily more than anything. The judge didn't think so when he saw all the evidence of neglect I presented. Michael ran his hands through his hair, desperate. Dorothy noticed how Jennifer avoided looking in certain directions, especially toward the staircase leading to the second floor where the library was. I'm going up to get my things, Jennifer announced, heading for the stairs. Take everything that's yours, Michael sighed, defeated. As Jennifer went upstairs, Brian stayed in the living room, clearly uncomfortable. Dorothy took the chance to discreetly approach, pretending to dust the coffee table near him. Mr. Brian, she said softly, how many years have you known Michael? Dorothy, please don't make things harder. I know you've always been loyal to him, but 25 years of friendship, right? Since college, she continued, as if she hadn't heard. You've always been treated like family in this house. Brian looked away, visibly uneasy. People change, Dorothy. Sometimes we realize we didn't know someone as well as we thought. Is that so? She asked, wiping already clean vases. And Mrs. Jennifer, have you known her long too? Brian swallowed hard. Dorothy, please. I just remember a party here. Must have been about 2 years ago. I saw the two of you talking very closely on the balcony. Thought it was odd at the time, but it wasn't my business, was it? The man paled. Dorothy kept cleaning as if making small talk about the weather. And then she started going out more, always in the afternoon, always in a hurry. Said she was going to the salon but came back with the same hairstyle. Dorothy, stop this. I didn't say anything, Mr. Brian. Just mentioned it was strange, especially because your visits here became more frequent around that same time. Brian was sweating. Michael, lost in his thoughts, wasn't paying attention to the conversation. Footsteps on the stairs signaled Jennifer's return. She carried a small box, but held it as if it contained something priceless. All done. I've got everything I need, she said hurriedly. Dorothy immediately noticed the suspicious rush. In 15 years, she'd never seen Jennifer handle any box so carefully. Mrs. Jennifer, can I help you carry that to the car? The maid offered. No need. The reply came too fast, almost a shout. I mean, it's not heavy, I've got it. Michael looked up, noticing his ex-wife's strange tone. What's in that box, Jennifer? Just personal keepsakes, photos, letters. Nothing that concerns you. Photos of us? No, Michael, they're my personal things. You have no right to them. The answer was too harsh for something so simple. Dorothy noticed that Jennifer was nervous, almost desperate to leave. Well, we should go then, Brian said, clearly wanting to end the visit. Wait, Michael stood up. Jennifer, I need to know, when did this start between you two? I deserve that truth at least. Jennifer and Brian exchanged a quick glance, but it was enough for Dorothy to realize there was much more to the story. Michael, this won't change anything now, Jennifer replied, heading for the door. It changes everything for me. 25 years of friendship, 15 of marriage. I deserve the truth. The truth is, you were never the husband I needed, she said coldly, and Brian was always more attentive to me than you. Jennifer, Brian tried to interrupt, but she continued. He listened to me, gave me attention, genuinely cared. Not like you, always buried in work. Michael felt as if he'd been punched in the gut. Dorothy saw tears forming in her boss's eyes. You planned all this, didn't you? The separation, the lawsuit. We didn't plan anything, Brian said quickly. Things just happened. Liars, Michael whispered. You betrayed me in every way possible. Jennifer adjusted the box in her arms and moved toward the door. Michael, get over it. I have a new life now. Our daughter has a new life, and you need to accept that. And the company? What will you do with my company? Jennifer smiled mysteriously. Our company, darling, at least for now. What do you mean for now? Nothing much, just that I might not be interested in running a construction business. Maybe it's better to sell it to someone who knows what they're doing. Michael panicked. Sell it? That company is my whole life. My father started it. It was your company, Michael. Now it's mine, and I can do whatever I want with it. Dorothy's heart ached seeing her boss's despair. 15 years working in that house, watching Michael build everything with such effort, only to see it all crumbling now. Jennifer, please, not the company. Take the house, the money, but don't destroy a lifetime's work. Goodbye, Michael, was all she said, walking out with Brian behind her. The silence that followed was heavy. Michael sank back into his chair, burying his head in his hands. Mr. Michael, Dorothy approached, you can't give up like this. Dorothy, she won. The law is on her side. She has the company. She has my daughter. What can I do? You can fight. Something isn't right in all this. I can feel it. Michael looked at the housekeeper. Dorothy had always been intuitive, observant. In 15 years, he'd learned to trust her instincts. What do you think is wrong? Plenty, sir. Her rush to leave today, that box she guarded so carefully. How nervous Mr. Brian was. You think they're hiding something? I'm sure of it. And one more thing, Mr. Michael. Mrs. Jennifer never went into the library during your marriage, remember? Always said I didn't need to clean there. That's true. Well, today she spent a long time up there and came down with that box. Michael straightened in his chair, showing the first spark of energy since receiving the legal notice. You think she was keeping something in the library? I do, sir. And whatever it was, she made sure to take it today. Shall we check the library? The two went upstairs together. The library had always been Michael's refuge, where he read about business and relaxed after hard days. But Jennifer had never shown interest in the room. At first glance, everything seemed normal. The bookshelves were tidy, the reading table clean, the armchairs in place. Sir, look there. Dorothy pointed to one of the shelves. There was an empty space between the books, as if something had been recently removed. Was there a book there? Michael asked. Yes, sir. It was a thick book with a brown cover. I always thought it was odd because it was the only one that looked new among all those old books. Michael walked closer to the shelf, running his hand over the empty space. Do you remember anything else about that book? I remember once, when I was cleaning, I saw Mrs. Jennifer handling it. But when she noticed me, she quickly closed it and left the library. When did that happen? About 3 years ago, give or take. It was around the time she started acting stranger, more distant from you. Michael thought for a moment. 3 years ago was when the problems in their marriage began to get worse. Jennifer started complaining more, leaving the house more often, showing less interest in the family. Dorothy, do you think there was something hidden in that book? It has to be, sir. And it must be something very important for her to take such a risk coming here to get it today. They kept searching the library, checking drawers, looking behind books, trying to find anything Jennifer might have left behind. Mr. Peterson, look here, Dorothy called, pointing to the desk near the window. There were small pieces of paper on the floor, as if someone had hastily torn up documents. She must have torn something up here, Michael said, gathering the pieces. The fragments were too small to form complete sentences, but Michael managed to make out a few words. Doctor. Report. Payment. What do you think this means? I don't know, sir. But it seems Mrs. Jennifer was in a real hurry and ended up leaving some clues behind. Michael pocketed the pieces of paper. They might not be enough to uncover the truth, but they were the first sign that Jennifer was hiding something. Dorothy, would you mind helping me figure out what's going on? I know it's not your responsibility, but... Mr. Peterson, in these 15 years, you've always been fair to me. When my mother got sick, you paid for all her treatments without me even asking. When I needed time off to care for her, you never docked my pay. Of course I'll help. Thank you, Dorothy. I don't know what I'd do without you. We'll find out the truth, sir. I'm sure there's much more to this story. They spent the rest of the afternoon searching the library for more clues but found nothing. However, Dorothy had an idea. Mr. Peterson, do you remember the name of the lawyer who represented Mrs. Jennifer in the case? Dr. Richard Thompson. Why? Well, I remember seeing that man here at the house a few times, long before the separation started. Michael was surprised. Are you sure? Yes, sir. It was about 2 years ago. He'd come here in the afternoons when you were at work. I always thought it was odd, because Mrs. Jennifer never mentioned having any legal issues. That means they were planning the separation for a long time. And there's more, sir. Once I overheard him talking on the phone in the garden. He said something about, "when everything is settled." Michael felt a mix of anger and sadness. The whole situation had been planned in advance while he was working hard to keep the family happy. "Dorothy, do you think we could talk to this lawyer?" "I doubt it, sir. He won't admit anything that could hurt his client." "True, but maybe we can find out more about him, about how he operates." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out as we're just getting started. Now continuing. That night, Michael barely slept. His mind wouldn't stop processing everything he had discovered. Jennifer had planned it all in advance, probably with Brian and the lawyer's help. But what bothered him most was the feeling that there were still many secrets left to uncover. The next morning, Dorothy arrived earlier than usual. She found Michael in the kitchen, drinking coffee and looking over some papers. "Good morning, Mr. Peterson. Did you sleep?" "Almost not at all, Dorothy. But I had some ideas during the night." "What kind of ideas?" Michael showed her a list he had made. "I wrote down everything we found strange about Jennifer's behavior over the last few years. The mysterious outings, the meetings with the lawyer, the book hidden in the library, that box she took yesterday." Dorothy stepped closer to read the list. "And what do you plan to do with this?" "I want to talk to someone who might be able to help us. My brother, David." David Peterson was a retired journalist, 3 years older than Michael. He had always been the smartest person in the family, with an uncanny ability to uncover the truth behind the most complicated situations. "Mr. David always had his doubts about Mrs. Jennifer, didn't he?" "Yes, from the start. He always said there was something off about her, but I never wanted to listen. I thought he was just being overprotective." Michael picked up the phone and called his brother. "David, it's me, Michael. I need to talk to you urgently." "No, I can't say over the phone. Can you come to the house?" "Thank you. I'll be waiting." An hour later, David arrived at the mansion. He was a tall man with graying hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He hugged his brother tightly. "Michael, I heard what happened. I'm so sorry." "David, I need your help. I found some strange things about Jennifer, about this whole separation." "I always knew there was something wrong with that woman," David said, sitting in the living room. "Tell me everything." Michael and Dorothy shared everything they had discovered. The mysterious book, the box, the secret meetings with the lawyer, the torn pieces of paper. David listened quietly, taking notes in the little notebook he always carried. "Michael, in all my years as a journalist, I've learned that when someone hides this much, it's because they have a lot to hide," he said when they finished. "Let's investigate this properly. Do you think we can find something that changes the situation?" "I think so. First, let's find out more about this lawyer, Dr. Richard Thompson, right?" "That's him." David picked up the phone and made a few calls. Even retired, he still had contacts in the journalism world. "Interesting," he said after the third call. "Dr. Richard Thompson has a questionable reputation. Some colleagues have investigated him for shady methods in divorce cases." "What kind of shady methods?" Michael asked. "Evidence tampering, witness bribing, document forgery, but they could never prove anything against him." Dorothy stepped closer. "Mr. David, if this lawyer really does those things, do you think he might have done something similar in Mr. Peterson's case?" "Very likely, Dorothy, and if he did, we'll find out." David spent the rest of the day making more calls, talking to lawyer friends, digging into Dr. Richard Thompson's reputation. By late afternoon, he had troubling information. "Michael, this lawyer is involved in several suspicious cases. And more. I found out he has massive gambling debts." "Gambling debts?" "Yes. He frequents underground casinos, owes dangerous people a lot of money. A lawyer in that position is capable of anything for cash." Michael felt a chill in his stomach. If Jennifer's lawyer was corrupt, how many irregularities were in his case? "David, how can we prove this?" "First, we need to find out what Jennifer was hiding. Those scraps of paper you found. Can I take a look?" Michael handed the pieces of paper to his brother. David spread them out on the table and began trying to form sentences with them. "Doctor, report, payment." "Michael, Do you remember Jennifer having any health issues recently? Not that I know of. She was always very healthy. Then why would she have hidden medical papers? Dorothy approached the table. Mr. David, may I make a suggestion? Of course, Dorothy. Mrs. Jennifer was always very vain, very concerned about her appearance. Could she have had secret plastic surgery? That's possible, David thought. But why would she hide it? It's not a crime to get plastic surgery. Unless she used company money to pay for it, Michael said, a light bulb going off in his head. Now it makes sense. David clapped his hands. If she used company funds for personal expenses without authorization, that's embezzlement. But how do we prove it? David smiled, the grin of someone who'd just uncovered a crucial clue. Let's start with the doctors. Michael, do you remember Jennifer being away for a few days in recent years? Anytime she said she was traveling or visiting someone? Michael thought for a moment. Yes, about 2 years ago, she said she was spending a week at her sister's place in Chicago, but I always thought it was odd because they were never very close. And did you confirm if she actually went to Chicago? No. I trusted her completely. Dorothy interrupted the conversation. Mr. Michael, may I say something? Of course, Dorothy. That week she said she was in Chicago. I noticed she came back looking very different. Different how? Thinner, her face was swollen, and she rested for a few days. She said it was the flu, but it didn't seem like the flu. David and Michael exchanged glances. Dorothy, you're a genius, David said. She had plastic surgery that week. But how do we prove it? I'll use my contacts to find out which plastic surgery clinics operate in the area. If she had the procedure here in Los Angeles, someone should remember. And if we find out she really had surgery, how does that help us? Michael, if she paid with company money, we have a case of embezzlement. That could void the entire divorce settlement. For the first time in days, Michael felt a glimmer of hope. Do you really think we can turn this around? I think so, bro. But it'll take work, and we need more evidence. David spent the next few days investigating plastic surgery clinics. He used his journalistic connections to get information that would normally be confidential. Meanwhile, Michael tried to keep busy, but his mind kept drifting to his daughter. Emily hadn't answered any of his calls since the trial. Mr. Michael, Dorothy said one morning, shouldn't you try to talk to Emily? I've tried, Dorothy. Jennifer must have forbidden her from speaking to me. But maybe if you went to the school. Michael considered the suggestion. Emily attended a private school near Jennifer's house. Maybe he could catch her after class. You're right, I'll try today. That afternoon, Michael was parked in front of the school, waiting for the students to leave. When he saw Emily walking toward the gate, his heart raced. The girl looked thinner with dark circles under her eyes, as if she hadn't been sleeping well. When she saw him, she paused for a moment, glancing around as if afraid someone might be watching. Dad, she said, approaching the car. Hi, sweetheart, how are you? Emily looked around again before answering. Dad, I can't stay long. If Mom finds out I talked to you... Emily, are you okay? You look exhausted. The girl took a deep breath. Dad, I need to tell you something, but I can't talk here. It's too dangerous. Michael was alarmed. Dangerous? What do you mean? Dad, can you pick me up tomorrow at the same time? But park 2 blocks away, she pointed to a more distant street. I need to tell you things I found out about Mom. What kind of things? I can't talk now. See you tomorrow, Dad. Emily quickly walked away, leaving Michael even more worried. What secrets had his daughter uncovered? And why did she seem so afraid? The next day, Michael arrived at the meeting spot early. When Emily appeared, she ran to the car and got in quickly. Dad, you won't believe what I found out, she said, breathless. Calm down, sweetheart. Tell me everything. Dad, Mom, and Uncle Brian, they're planning to sell your company. Michael felt his blood run cold. Sell it? To whom? To a group of investors Uncle Brian knows. I heard them talking last night. They think they'll make a lot of money from the sale. Emily, are you sure about what you heard? Yes, Dad. And there's more. Mom isn't doing well. She takes strange pills, gets really nervous. Sometimes she yells at nothing. Michael grew concerned. Despite all the hurt, he didn't want Jennifer to be going through trouble. What kind of pills? I don't know, Dad, but there are a lot. And she hides them from everyone, even me. How did you find out? I found a box full of medicine in her room. Some have weird names I've never heard before. Michael remembered the box Jennifer had taken from the mansion the day before. Emily, do you remember any other details about the sale? Yes, Dad. They said they need to act fast before you find out. Uncle Brian said you have a month to wrap everything up. A month? Dad, I don't want to stay with Mom. Can I come home? Michael's heart broke at his daughter's plea. Sweetheart, I'm doing everything I can to fix this, but for now you need to stay with your mom. Dad, I'm scared of her. She's not right in the head. What do you mean? Sometimes she talks to herself, sometimes she cries for no reason, sometimes she gets furious over little things, and when Uncle Brian isn't around, she gets worse. Michael hugged his daughter tightly. Emily, I promise I'll get you out of this, but I need you to be strong and help me. How can I help? I need you to pay attention to your mom's conversations. If she says anything else about selling the company or anything suspicious, you tell me. Okay, Dad, but promise you'll get me out soon. I promise, sweetheart. And Emily, if you ever feel in danger, call me immediately. After dropping off his daughter, Michael returned home more determined than ever. He found David and Dorothy in the living room, papers scattered across the table. David, I've found out something serious, Michael said, recounting his conversation with Emily. This confirms our suspicions, David replied. And I've also uncovered some interesting things. What did you find? First, I confirmed Jennifer had plastic surgery 2 years ago. Liposuction and breast implants costing $50,000. How did she pay for it? Here's the interesting part. David showed him some papers. She paid with a check from the company account. A check with your signature. Michael took the papers, stunned. But I never signed this. Exactly. Your signature was forged. Dorothy stepped closer. Mr. Michael, does this mean she committed a crime? It does, Dorothy, David answered. Forgery and embezzlement. Crimes that could invalidate the entire divorce process. But how do we prove the signature is fake? Already thought of that. I have a handwriting expert friend who can analyze it. If it's confirmed that the signature was forged, we have enough evidence to reopen the case. Michael sat down, trying to process everything. David, do you really think we can turn this around? Michael, I won't lie to you. It's going to be a tough battle. Jennifer and her accomplices won't give up easily, but now we have ammunition to fight. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. The next few days were intense. David managed to schedule the handwriting analysis for the following week, while Michael tried to gather more evidence of Jennifer's crimes. Dorothy, meanwhile, had an idea that would prove crucial to the case. Mr. Peterson, do you remember the security system at the mansion? Of course, why? How long do the cameras keep the recordings? Michael thought for a moment. I believe they store them for 2 years. Why do you ask? Sir, if Mrs. Jennifer forged your signature, she must have done it here in the mansion, in your office. Maybe the cameras caught it. David smacked his forehead. Dorothy, you're brilliant. Michael, where are those recordings stored? In the server, in the basement. But there are hours and hours of footage. It doesn't matter. We'll review whatever's necessary. They spent the entire afternoon in the basement, analyzing recordings from 2 years ago. It was tedious work, but necessary. It was Dorothy who found the evidence they were looking for. Mr. Peterson, look here. On the computer screen, Jennifer appeared in Michael's office on a day when he was away on a business trip. She was sitting at his desk with some papers in front of her, practicing pen movements. She's training to forge my signature, Michael said, stunned. And look at the date. David pointed to the corner of the screen. 2 days before the plastic surgery payment. Is this enough proof? Along with the handwriting analysis, it's more than enough. We've caught her red-handed forging your signature. Michael felt a relief he hadn't experienced in weeks. Finally, they had concrete evidence of Jennifer's crimes. "David, what do we do now?" "Now we go to the new lawyer I hired for you, Dr. Robert Johnson, one of the best criminal attorneys in Los Angeles." The next day, Michael, David, and Dorothy met with Dr. Robert Johnson in his office. The lawyer was a serious, middle-aged man, known for only taking cases he could win. "Mr. Peterson, I've reviewed all the material your brother sent me," Dr. Johnson said. "We have a solid case. Do you think we can overturn the ruling?" "Not just overturn it. We can sue your ex-wife for forgery, embezzlement, and possibly conspiracy." "Conspiracy?" "Yes. She, attorney Richard Thompson, and Brian Wilson worked together to commit these crimes. That constitutes conspiracy." Michael could hardly believe it. Weeks ago, he had lost everything. Now he had a chance not only to recover his assets, but also to see justice served. "Doctor, how long will this process take?" "If all goes well, a few weeks. We'll request an injunction to suspend the effects of the previous ruling while we investigate these crimes. And my daughter. With this evidence, we'll easily get temporary custody of Emily." Tears of relief welled up in Michael's eyes. Finally, there was light at the end of the tunnel. Dr. Johnson filed the petition the next day. The evidence was so solid that the judge granted the injunction immediately, suspending the previous ruling and ordering a new investigation. Jennifer received the notification the same day. Michael was at home when she called, furious. "Michael, what do you think you're doing?" she screamed over the phone. "I'm doing what's right, Jennifer. I've uncovered all your schemes." "What schemes? You're losing your mind." "Jennifer, I have proof that you forged my signature to pay for your plastic surgery. I have security footage of you practicing to copy my signature." The other end of the line fell completely silent. "Michael, I can explain." "You don't need to explain anything to me, Jennifer. Explain it to the judge." "You don't understand. I had to do it." "Why did you have to do it?" Jennifer began to cry. Because I was sick, Michael. Very sick." "Sick? What kind of sickness?" "Severe depression. Some days I couldn't even get out of bed. The plastic surgery was part of the treatment to help me feel better about myself." Michael was confused. If Jennifer was truly sick, why hadn't she talked to him? "Jennifer, if you were sick, why didn't you tell me? I would have helped. I would have paid for any treatment." "Because you only cared about work. You never had time for me. You never noticed when I was suffering." "That doesn't justify forging my signature, Jennifer. That doesn't justify deceiving me for years." "Michael, please. Can we talk? In person?" Michael thought for a moment. Maybe it was important to hear the full story. "Fine. But here at the house, with witnesses." The next day, Jennifer arrived at the mansion with only Emily by her side. The girl ran to hug her father as soon as she entered the house. "Dad, I missed you so much," she said, crying. "Sweetheart, it's so good to see you." Jennifer looked different, thinner, with deep dark circles under her eyes, her hands trembling. She really did look like someone who was ill. "Michael, we need to talk," she said, sitting in the living room. Dorothy stayed close by as a witness to the conversation. "Then speak, Jennifer." "Michael, it all started 3 years ago. I began having anxiety attacks, depression. You were always traveling, always busy with the company. Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried several times, but you always said it was just stress, that it would pass." Michael vaguely remembered a few conversations where Jennifer had complained about feeling sad, but he hadn't paid much attention. "Go on." "I sought medical help on my own. The doctors said I had severe depression, that I needed urgent treatment. And what does that have to do with plastic surgery?" "The psychiatrist said part of my depression came from low self-esteem, from how I saw myself in the mirror. He suggested plastic surgery could help with the treatment." Michael was starting to understand, but it still didn't justify the crimes. "Jennifer, even if all that were true, why didn't you talk to me? Why forge my signature?" "Because I knew you'd say it was nonsense, that you wouldn't pay for a frivolous surgery." "How can you say that when you never gave me the chance to decide?" Jennifer lowered her head. "You're right, Michael. I should have talked to you." "And Brian, how long have you two been together?" "He reached out when he heard I was going through a hard time. He offered me help, emotional support. One thing led to another. How long? 2 years. Michael felt a sharp pain in his chest. 2 years of betrayal, 2 years of lies. And the divorce? Did you plan everything to hurt me? Michael, I was desperate. Brian said you'd never agree to a divorce willingly, that you'd try to leave me with nothing. That's a lie. I would never do that to you, Jennifer. I know that now. But back then I was so confused, so sick. Brian and Dr. Thompson convinced me it was the only way to secure my future and Emily's. Emily, who had stayed quiet until then, moved closer to her mother. Mom, you lied to everyone. You lied to Dad, you lied to me. Sweetheart, I was sick. Mom, being sick doesn't justify doing wrong things. Dad has always been good to us. Michael looked at his daughter with pride. At 17, she had more maturity than many adults. Jennifer, even though I understand your situation, you committed crimes. Forgery, embezzlement. Michael, I know, and I regret it. I really do. What do you plan to do now? Jennifer stayed silent for a few minutes, clearly wrestling with herself. Michael, I want to do the right thing. I'll confess everything, return everything I took from you. Are you sure about this? I am. I can't live with this guilt, with this lie anymore. Michael felt a mix of relief and sadness. Relief at finally hearing the truth, sadness at seeing how their marriage had come to this. And Brian and Dr. Thompson? They won't like my decision, especially Dr. Thompson. He has a lot to lose if everything comes out. Why? Because he's done this with other clients too. I wasn't the first. Michael was shocked. Do you have proof? I have some documents he gave me, thinking I'd never use them against him. Dorothy approached. Miss Jennifer, if you have evidence against this lawyer, you need to turn it over to the authorities. I know, Dorothy. I'll do it. Michael looked at his ex-wife differently now. He saw a sick, manipulated woman who had made wrong choices in a moment of vulnerability. Jennifer, about Emily. Michael, she should stay with you. She's always been closer to you anyway, and I need treatment. I need to take care of myself before I can care for anyone else. Emily hugged her mother. Mom, are you going to get treatment? Will you seek help? Yes, sweetheart, I promise. In the following days, Jennifer kept her word. She confessed everything in court, handed over the evidence against Dr. Thompson, and returned all the assets she had taken from Michael. Brian tried to deny his involvement, but the evidence was too clear. Dr. Thompson was arrested and had his law license revoked. Michael's company was returned to him, along with the mansion and all other assets. Most importantly, he regained custody of his daughter. Jennifer was sentenced to community service and a fine, in addition to repaying all the money she had taken. But the judge, considering her mental state and the fact that she had confessed voluntarily, gave her the lightest possible sentence. Michael decided not to sue Brian in civil court. The loss of their friendship and the public humiliation were punishment enough. 3 months later, life had returned to normal. Michael ran his company with renewed enthusiasm. Emily was back in the mansion, studying and preparing for college. Dorothy, who had been crucial in uncovering the truth, received a promotion and a significant raise. Michael appointed her as general manager of the household, recognizing not just her work, but above all her loyalty and intelligence. Dorothy, Michael said one morning as they had coffee together, if it weren't for you, I would have lost everything. Mr. Michael, I just did my duty. I always knew you were a good and fair man. You did far more than your duty. You were a true friend when I needed it most. Emily came down for coffee and joined the conversation. Dad, how's Mom doing? Better, sweetheart. She's in treatment, taking her medication properly. The psychiatrist said she's responding well. Can I visit her this weekend? Of course you can. It's important you stay in touch. Michael had decided not to hold on to bitterness. Jennifer had made serious mistakes, but she was paying for them and trying to make amends. For Emily's sake, it was important to keep a civil relationship. And Uncle Brian? Emily asked. He moved to the countryside. I think he was ashamed of what he did. Dad, do you miss your friendship? Michael thought for a moment before answering. I miss the man I thought he was, sweetheart. but I've come to realize I never truly knew him. At least now we know who our real friends are, Emily said, looking affectionately at Dorothy. The housekeeper smiled, touched. You're my family, she said. There's nowhere else in the world I'd rather be. Michael glanced around the coffee table. His family had grown smaller, but it had gained truth and sincerity. Sometimes, he thought, losing everything is necessary to discover what truly matters. That afternoon, Michael was in his office when he received a call from his new lawyer, Dr. Johnson. Michael, I have good news. The investigations into Dr. Thompson revealed a much larger scheme than we imagined. How so? He manipulated dozens of divorce cases over the years. Many men lost assets and custody unfairly. Your complaint helped uncover all of it. Michael felt good knowing his fight had helped others. And the victims? Will they recover what they lost? Many will, yes. Some cases are still under review, but the trend is that most will be overturned. I'm glad to hear that. Michael, there's one more thing. The district attorney's office is offering a reward for information leading to the discovery of more crimes like these. You're entitled to a significant amount. Doctor, I don't want money for this. If there's a reward, I'd like it donated to an organization that helps people with depression. Are you sure? Absolutely. After everything I've been through, I've learned there are things more important than money. A few weeks later, Michael received a letter that moved him deeply. It was from a man who had gone through the same ordeal and managed to reverse his case thanks to the evidence uncovered in Michael's situation. Dear Michael, the letter read, I'll never be able to thank you enough for what you've done. For 3 years, I lived apart from my children because of Dr. Thompson's lies and manipulations. Thanks to your courage in speaking out, I proved my innocence and regained custody. You didn't just save your family, you saved mine too. Michael showed the letter to Emily and Dorothy during dinner. Dad, that's beautiful, Emily said. You're a hero. I'm no hero, sweetheart. I just fought for the truth. Mr. Michael, Dorothy said, you may not think of yourself as a hero, but to many families, that's exactly what you are. That night, Michael spent some time on the porch, gazing at the stars and reflecting on everything that had happened. 6 months ago, his life had completely fallen apart. Today, it was rebuilt on stronger foundations. He had lost a wife and a best friend, but he had gained a deeper understanding of loyalty, truth, and justice. He had discovered Dorothy was much more than a housekeeper. She was a true friend. He had grown closer to Emily and David. Most importantly, he had learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what's truly worth having. Emily joined him on the porch. Dad, what are you thinking about? How quickly life can change, sweetheart. 6 months ago, I thought I had everything. Now I know I had nothing that truly mattered. And what truly matters? Michael smiled, putting his arm around his daughter's shoulders. Genuine people, sweetheart. The ones who stand by you when everything seems lost. Like Dorothy? Like Dorothy. Like your Uncle David, like you. Those are life's real treasures. Dad, do you think you'll ever get married again? Michael laughed. For now, I'm perfectly happy with the family I have. You, Dorothy, David. It's more than enough to make me happy. I'm happy too, Dad, much happier than I was a few months ago. Even with all the problems we've been through. Especially because of the problems we've been through, they showed us who truly cares about us. Michael hugged his daughter tightly. At 17, she already had a wisdom he hadn't acquired until 45. Just then, Dorothy appeared on the porch with tea for both of them. Sorry to interrupt, but I thought you might like some tea before bed. Dorothy, you're part of this family, Michael said. You're never interrupting. Thank you, Mr. Michael. Those words mean a lot to me. The three of them stayed on the porch a while longer, talking about future plans, Emily's studies, and home improvements. They were simple, everyday conversations, but to Michael they were priceless. After months of living with lies and betrayal, the simplicity of truth was comforting. When they finally went to bed, Michael felt at peace for the first time in a long while, not just because of the legal victory, but because he knew he was surrounded by people who truly loved him. In his room before sleep, he looked at an old photo of his family, him, Jennifer, and a young Emily. A pang of nostalgia hit him, but not longing. That family had been built on lies. The family he had now, smaller but true, was far better. He put the photo back in the drawer and turned off the light. Tomorrow would be a new day, full of real possibilities, built on solid foundations of truth and trust. In the following months, Michael focused on rebuilding not just his personal life, but also his business. The scandal involving Dr. Thompson had made headlines, and many clients sought out Michael's firm, impressed by his integrity. "Mr. Michael," Dorothy said one morning, "the phone hasn't stopped ringing. Everyone wants to do business with you. It's ironic, isn't it, Dorothy? I almost lost everything because of lies, and now I'm gaining everything because of the truth. Truth always wins in the end, sir." "You're right." Emily was accepted into UCLA's law program, an achievement that filled Michael with pride. "Dad, I want to be a lawyer to help people like you," she said when she got the results. "Sweetheart, be a lawyer to serve justice. The world needs professionals with integrity like you'll be." His relationship with Jennifer had stabilized. She was still in treatment, had gotten a job at an accounting firm, and was rebuilding her life. She visited Emily regularly, and the two had rekindled their mother-daughter bond. "How's your mum?" Michael asked Emily after one of her visits. "Better, Dad. Very different from last year. The medication is working and she's in therapy." "I'm glad to hear that. She always asks about you, you know." "What do you tell her?" "That you're doing well, that you're happy. And it's true, right, Dad?" Michael smiled. "It's true, sweetheart. I'm very happy." A year after everything happened, Michael received an unexpected invitation. The State Board of Accountancy wanted to honor him for his role in uncovering Dr. Thompson's corruption scheme. "Mr. Michael, are you going to accept the honor?" Dorothy asked. "I don't know, Dorothy. I didn't do this for recognition, but maybe it's important, sir. It might inspire others to stand up for the truth, too." Emily agreed with Dorothy. "Dad, accept it. Your story could help a lot of people." Michael ended up accepting. At the ceremony, dozens of people who had benefited from the scheme's exposure were present, families reunited, injustices corrected. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael said in his speech, "I'm not here as a hero. I'm here as someone who almost lost everything by believing lies, but managed to rebuild everything based on truth." The audience applauded warmly. "The truth isn't always easy to accept," Michael continued. "Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it forces us to rethink everything we believed. But it's the only solid foundation for building a life worth living." After the ceremony, many people approached to share their stories, to thank him, to ask for advice. Michael realized that his experience, as painful as it had been, had served a greater purpose. It had helped other families. It had contributed to making the justice system fairer. "Dad," said Emily on the way back home, "I'm so proud of you." "Thank you, sweetheart." "And Dorothy is proud too, right, Dorothy?" "Very proud," said the woman from the back seat. "Mr. Peterson is an example of character and integrity." Michael glanced in the rearview mirror and saw Dorothy smiling. He remembered the day she had handed him that legal notice over a year ago. At the time, he thought his life was over. Today, he knew his real life had begun that day. "You two are the most important women in my life," he said. "One gave me life, the other helped me rebuild it." "Dad, you're getting sentimental," Emily laughed. "And what's wrong with that? A man has the right to be sentimental with the people he loves." They arrived home as the sun was setting. The mansion, which a year earlier had represented nothing but empty status and power, was now truly a home. "What do you say we make pizza tonight?" Michael suggested. "Yay," said Emily. "It's been ages since we did that." "I'll prepare the dough," offered Dorothy. "No, tonight you rest, the three of us will do it together." They spent the evening in the kitchen, making pizza, talking, laughing. They were simple moments, but to Michael, they were worth more than all the deals he'd ever closed. "Dad," Emily said while waiting for the pizza to bake, "if someone asked you what the worst and best moments of your life were, what would you say?" Michael thought for a moment. "The worst moment was when I received that legal notice. I thought I'd lost everything that mattered." "And the best?" The best was discovering there were people like you two by my side. True, loyal people who stayed with me even when everything seemed lost. Dorothy wiped a tear from her eye. Mr. Peterson, you've been a blessing in my life too. I've worked here for 15 years, but it was this past year that I truly felt like part of a family. You've always been part of this family, Dorothy. I just took too long to realize it. The pizza was ready, and the three of them sat at the kitchen table to eat. It was an ordinary domestic scene, one that happened in millions of homes every day. But to Michael, it was perfect. Dad, Emily said, can I ask you a serious question? Of course. If you could go back in time and stop all this from happening, would you? Michael chewed slowly, thinking about his answer. You know that's a tough question, sweetheart. Obviously, I wish I could have spared you and Dorothy all the pain we went through. But if none of this had happened, maybe I'd never have discovered who truly matters in my life. Maybe I'd have kept living a lie forever. So you wouldn't change anything. I'd change the suffering you both went through because of me. But the truth coming out, our bonds growing stronger, I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. Emily smiled. You know what, Dad? I wouldn't change anything either. These past few months have been the best of my life, even with all the problems. Why? Because I found out I have an amazing dad and a wonderful second mom, she said, looking at Dorothy. People who would do anything for me and for whom I'd do anything. Dorothy couldn't hold back her tears. You two are very special, she said. Truly very special. Michael looked at that scene, his 18-year-old daughter and his loyal 52-year-old housekeeper, bonded like mother and daughter, united by love and loyalty, and knew he was the richest man in the world. The end. So, what did you think of this story of overcoming and discovery? Michael truly managed to turn his life around thanks to Dorothy's loyalty and the courage to fight for the truth. Tell us in the comments, do you believe the truth always wins in the end? And if you have a similar story to share, leave it below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.